The topic of 100 humans versus one gorilla has been going around for a while, and I don't know why people are still talking about it. Nonetheless, I want to do something like this, but involve Ben 10. And if you can read the fucking title, how many gorillas would it take to beat forearms? But before we get into that, if you want to increase your income by 30% and your inheritance from your parents by 50%, like the video. That's all it takes. It's all it takes. It's all it takes. And subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. Anyways, let's get into this. First, we have to find out how powerful a gorilla is. Most people say a gorilla's physical strength is 10 to 20 times stronger than the average human. Just to point out, the average human has a punching strength of 75 joules. Meanwhile, Mike Tyson has a punch of 1600 joules. So you meaning to tell me a gorilla would lose to one human, let alone 100? No. In fact, the only recorded moment of history of a gorilla killing a human is by ripping them in half. For a calc such as this, the gorilla would have to reach a physical power of over 1300 kilojoules or war level. In comparison to the average human, a gorilla would be over 17,333 times stronger. However, this is from a stronger silverback gorilla than ever recorded, and not the average. And this feat should not really be applied to any gorilla, so very similar to how the average human aren't comparing to Mike Tyson's 1.6 kilojoule punch. But for the sake of this video, we will say that every gorilla in this fight will have this level of striking power and the best showings of speed and stamina, which we'll get into. Getting to a gorilla's speed, they can outrun most humans with a recorded level of 25 miles per hour or 40 kilometers per hour. In comparison, the average human can run at 10 kilometers per hour, with Usain Bolt, the current fastest man alive, can run at nearly 45 kilometers per hour. But when it comes to combat speeds, gorillas don't fight strategically or with focused strikes, and really their main weapon is their teeth and bite force, so the gorilla doesn't really have much to run with here. Now, what about forearms? Surely he's like 10 times stronger than a gorilla or something. I mean, he struggled with a mammoth, right? Shut up. Shut the up. Okay, first that mammoth was a mutant and rejuvenated by Dr. Anima, a guy who can literally turn gerbils into this thing. Anyways, Forearms has shown some insane feats like overpowering Diamond Head, clutching a 1v4 against stone monsters, kill a freaking god of death, and have peak aura farm. But when it comes to his feats, it mostly comes from him upscaling other characters. Let's start with Alliance. Forearms can overpower Second Form Malware, who can absorb enough power that was going to destroy Galvan B, which is 6 times greater in size than the moon. This would mean Forearms' punches could do more damage than over 177.6 exatons of TNT. That may seem impressive, but even Classic has superior showings to that, when he could crack the shell of the Big Tick, whose shell is unharmed by planetary explosions, and Forearms can crack the same shell with his mere punches. When it comes to the calc given, we are given a visual representation in a hologram that shows us what happens with this Big Tick and how it blows up planets, into which the energy output was found to be at 22.9 rototons of TNT, or dwarf star level. But the fair estimate is just planet level of 59.44 zetatons of TNT. And while this is the best Forearms feat by himself, he scales to characters with far greater. For example, he scales to a Humongousaur, and while not as strong as him, he should scale above characters who could damage Humongousaur like Princess Luma. And Humongousaur was capable of one-shotting the entropy pump that had enough energy to destroy reality a few light years around the area. And somehow Humongo's punching power was enough to stop it. Weird and questionable, but the total calc would be 9.475 teraflow, or solar system level. If you disagree with this feat, that's fine. I'd probably go with the planetary stuff anyway. For speed, Forearms hasn't traveled so quickly before. I mean, he's jumped across cities before, like with a few jumps every now and then, but his combat speed should be comparable to other aliens that can fight Kevin, who can fight at FTL speeds. If you want to take the peak scaling, these aliens could keep up with the Ultimate Agricor, who can travel entire galaxies quickly and can fight at these speeds. This is calculated at 131 billion times faster than light. So, pretty big difference between Forearms and a gorilla. But how much of a gap is it really? How many gorillas does it take to beat Forearms?
2 seconds later.
Well, here's the realistic answer. None of the gorillas could even move him, even if they wanted to, which they probably wouldn't even care about because they're gorillas, they're herbivores, they only eat plants, they're not going to try to eat him or anything, and they won't even be they won't care. They'll just be like, oh, look, it's a giant red monkey, and then just walk away. Forearms is also too physically overwhelming to not just send every one of them flying with zero effort. So instead, we would just find the difference and make a super peak monkey boy. That is the multiplication beyond the gorillas to be able to beat Forearms or at least match him. And it's pretty simple. We just take the strength and speed stats of forearms divided by the gorilla stats and boom, we got the number. Well, again, we'll start with the low balls. Forearms in terms of physical power would be an insane 15 plus octillion times greater, and his speed would be nearly 37 billion times. Now that's pretty insane. To match the speed gap, the gorilla would literally have to gain an amp comparable to going from destroying a city block to blowing up an island. The strength gap, however, would be a comparable gap between destroying a town to destroying a small star. And it just gets even crazier for the high ends, because the difference in power between a high-end gorilla and a high-end forearms is 59.2 sextillion, and for those who haven't had their math cherry popped yet, that is a 59.2 followed by 51 zeros. As for speed, forearms is 3.535 quintillion times physically faster, or a 3.535 followed by 18 zeros. Just to close the speed gap, a gorilla would have to get a power amp that is the difference between an average human and destroying a large island, which is kind of fitting as what we said before. To close the AP gap, however, this is a comparison of destroying a dwarf star to a universe. Yeah, that's a lot. So the answer to the question isn't how many gorillas it would take, it's what kind of ass pull a gorilla would have to pull and sling it at Ben to win. And I do mean sling it because, you know, and because some of you motherfuckers skipped to this part, I'll give you the answer in a few seconds, but only if you like the video. 500 likes and I'll do some more funny ideas with my boy Ben 10, which a lot of you seem to like my Ben 10 content more, so I'll be doing more of that. Okay, so the answer for all those people who skipped here,
I lied.